This is a Endeavour energy board where we have a house meter next to a flat meter. There's a Solar River inverter, DC isolator, and the Solar River function. I'm Sam from Level 2 Electrical, and on behalf of the Mark Group, we're just here to present to you and show you how the new metering configuration works after you've had your solar system installed. So what I have in my hand was your existing meter that we've actually removed, and what we do is we provide you with a Level 2 Electrical brief, which we've written down here, your meter number removed, your last kilowatt reading, and indicating that this is a domestic meter. Now look into your switchboard at the moment. We've installed 2 meters, and this is a solar meter net arrangement for Endeavour Energy Network. You have a domestic meter here, and you have a solar meter here. Now, a couple of things in your switchboard you'll notice that have remained is a flat disc meter, which has no benefit to your solar system. Your flat is on the rear of your property, and a tenant holds the electricity account. So the system for your inverter just currently installed will only benefit your main household. In your switchboard there has been a brand new solar supply main switch installed, which controls the AC supply from the inverter. To the right of the switchboard here you have a blue box here which is called the inverter, and to the left of the inverter you have a DC array isolator. This controls the power of DC voltage coming from the roof down into the inverter, and then out of the inverter you'll produce AC power, which will come through and is protected and isolated by the AC supply main switch. If this switch is off, the system does not work. Okay. Now looking over to the inverter, there is a main function on the inverter which equals pack. Pack at the moment is at 966, almost reaching that 1000 watt mark. How big is your system?
2.9.
Excellent. So if you have a 2.9 kilowatt system, that would read at 100% efficiency of 2900, 1 kilowatt equaling 1000 watts. Now if your system is running at the moment at 968, you're almost reaching in just over or close to 50%. 50% would equal 1450, 725 will equal 25%, so we're between 25 and 50%, so a good guesstimate would be you're running at 45% at the moment. It's very important to actually see that pack does go up to the higher marks of 60+% of the system. We want to ensure that it does, so we can make sure all the panels on the roof are connected correctly and they are working. If at any time you find your system does not reach above 60%, and on a 2.9 kilowatt system, I would believe the mark would be 2200 watts. If you never see your system run that high, this is something that we want to contact the Mark Group on. Now, another function on the inverter is E-total. Now you can see here E-total at the moment is at 76 kilowatts. This is an accumulated amount of what has been generated by your solar inverter. Just like your car has a speedo, and it will measure the total amount of kilometers that cars traveled, this inverter has the unit measurement of E-total. If we keep scrolling through there, we keep scrolling with the blue button, the function button. There it is. E-total is reading 76 kilowatts. Now, if you were to come back over here and point out for me which is your domestic meter for me.
My domestic meter is this one.
Excellent. And the domestic meter will accumulate to any amount that you bring in from the grid. So any amount of kilowatts that you consume from the household, this will accumulate. Now, your solar meter, if you can point that out to me.
That's this one.
Excellent. So at the moment your solar meter is reading only 1 kilowatt, and your inverter reads 76 kilowatts in total. this will actually show me that your inverter has been quite effective for your household, with 76 kilowatts going into the grid, and into your household, and only 1 kilowatt going back to the grid. Coming up to your e-total again, it reads 76 kilowatts. If you were to generate a further 100 kilowatts, this e-total will then go to 176 kilowatts. And for the basis for the exercise, if we come over to the solar meter, and the solar meter increases to 25 kilowatts, by knowing you've generated 100 kilowatts from the last reading of 1 kilowatt on your solar meter, this will prove to you that you've sent back 25 kilowatts to the grid, and 75 kilowatts has gone into the house. It's very important to understand this, because if you are sending a higher percentage of power generated by the inverter back to the grid, I believe, in my personal opinion, you're not being you're not taking the most advantage of your system, only receiving 8 cents from the grid and then purchasing it at 30 cents or 28 cents depending on the supply authority. So at the moment, could you tell me how to scroll to e-total?
Yeah, that would be on this blue button.
That's the function button.
There we go,
Excellent.
e-total.
So we've found e-total, and at the moment, if I were to ask you what is your efficiency of your system, how would you determine that?
That one is just going on 1,000 actually, nearly 99.
Okay, so we want to make sure we read the unit.
Yeah.
So we want to read the unit of PAC, PAC, and we've identified that PAC is at 999 watts, just at 1,000 watts now. It's increasing, and you've got a 2.9 kilowatt system.
Yeah.
So we would be roughly around about the 45% mark. Is that right?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yep,
Now,
50%.
Can you point out your DC isolator?
Yeah, that would be this one here.
And what does that DC isolator do?
It turns off your solar.
Excellent. Could you please indicate the solar supply main switch?
Yeah, that's this one here.
Excellent. Now, what I will do is simulate a fault.
Yeah.
Now, simulating a fault would indicate that the normal operation of this green light won't appear, and a red light will occur. Now, there can be a number of things why this occurs, but for the exercise, I'm going to simulate a fault. So, having a look at this indication here being green.
Yes, it's now got a red fault.
Okay, it has a red fault. Now, the first thing we want to do in identifying what could be a possible cause of the fault is checking if the DC isolator is on or off. So in this instance, it's on.
It's on. Yep.
The second thing we want to have a look at is the AC supply main switch, and we've noticed that it's off.
Yes.
Now, could you turn that back on?
And it's still.
When looking at the inverter,
Still on. Oh.
it's removed from its fault,
Yeah.
and it's counting down. The inverter will always count down when it sees sunlight, and when sunlight disappears, it will turn off. The solar system is only designed to work during the day and does not store any energy, and will turn off at night time. At the moment now, you have 40 seconds that the inverter will kick back in, and if we see a green light here, that would indicate to us that the system is operating okay, and there is nothing of concern, and it is working as it should be. 23 seconds, 21 seconds, 20 seconds, 19, 16, 13, 8. You hear 3 clicks from the inverter at the moment. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now, we've now outlined that we are in normal state, and we are operating.
Yep.
Excellent. Is there any questions that you may like to include in?
No, it's just my last power bill was so high, so I'm looking forward to looking at how we can use it better and use things during the day.
It's very important to actually make sure you are aware of what you are consuming, which is your domestic meter, and what you are sending back to the grid, and also recording what you generate. By knowing what you generate, you'll then be able to work out what you have used and what you have sent back to the grid to prove the efficiency and the running of the inverter and your investment is worthwhile. And also on your domestic meter, making sure that we are on top of the supply authorities not overcharging you, recording on a weekly or a monthly basis what you are using and working out a daily average. That would avoid high excessive bills and trying to achieve a lesser amount. So on behalf of the Mark Group and Level 2 Electrical, we'd like to thank you.
Thank you.
And appreciate your time.
Yeah, looking forward to cheaper bills.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.